Hey flower folks, welcome to Sure Inspirations. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Dollar Tree hardy annual seeds. I wanted to go ahead and make this video since we are right around fall, and all of these would be sown, direct sown in the fall for a late winter or an early spring harvest. All of this that you see right here costed me about $1.25, and if you buy them on sale, at the end of the season, each of these packets would be 10 cents a piece. So depending on when exactly you're purchasing from the Dollar Tree, I personally think even 25 cents is a great deal, but 10 cents is even better. You would probably want to buy them in springtime because obviously they don't have any seeds left around fall. So what I do is I go ahead and stock up all of the seeds for everything that they have and just separate them into tender annuals versus hardy annuals. Something to differentiate is these are frost tolerant, hence why they're considered hardy annuals. Also sometimes known as tender perennials or short-lived perennials for some of these. Now, to differentiate these versus the tender annuals, just so you guys know, tender annuals are plants that are zinnias and cosmos and sunflowers and amaranth, celoseas, and so on and so forth. As soon as frost comes, they die and they stop flowering. These ones, though, you direct sow in the ground and they will winter over for you and then flower either late winter or early spring, depending on how bad the winter was. Something else to note is all of these are zone 8 and beyond, no protection needed. If you are zone 6 and 7, you would probably want to provide a frost cloth or something of that sort to protect the little seedlings. If you are below zone 5, you probably either want to grow them in a greenhouse or just wait and direct sow them in the spring, like all of the seed packets say. Or the other option is to do milk jug sowings or soil blocks and so on and so forth. I personally don't do any of the winter sowings or milk jug sowings only because I live in a very hot and arid climate. It's dry. I live in the Southern California high desert, zone 8B. There's no snow here, there's no rain here, so I would then be hand watering everything if I were to sow anything in winter in milk jugs and all that, even though it's a great way to utilize the winter time and expand your season. If your season is so short, I don't do any of that because I find that it becomes more painful and more work for me than just direct sowing, since my growing season is so long, about 7.5 months. So without further ado, let's get started. What I wanted to mention first is the plants that, the seed packets that in the back of them, all of them, you are going to notice that none of them ever share that, oh, you can sow them in fall. They all state, go ahead and sow them after your first frost has passed, and do it that way. However, if you look at this little map, come on camera, focus. Okay, so if you look at this map right here, it will tell you zone 1 September to February. So if you follow this right here, it's pretty accurate of what I am talking about. However, if you follow the directions of sow indoors in a warm, well-lit area 6 to 8 weeks before last frost, this is for areas that are cooler, zone 5 and below, I want to say. So something to keep that in mind. Just follow this right here, since I am right here in the blues. So all of the blues would probably be considered zone 8 and beyond if you were to check your USDA zones. Now, most of the Dollar Tree seed packets that I've seen come this way with the directions, so it's easy enough to follow. Don't confuse yourself with different zones, because when you get into the zoning, the USDA zones is the most common sense, the most widely used out of all of them. There is another one here in the West Coast. It's called what is it, sunset zone, and it's just so complicated and not widely used, so it leaves the gardener confused, like which one am I supposed to follow? Most of the gardeners and nurseries and everybody is following the USDA zone only, so just go ahead and use that since it's most rule of thumb and most common sense one. Don't confuse yourself with other stuff, because all then you're going to end up doing is investing time in reading up about those and not investing the time in the garden actually sowing the seeds. That's been my experience anyway. I mean, it's great to know, but it's not information that I personally found not to be very helpful. I would rather experience and learn certain things than read it in a book that they're telling me whatever is not widely used and widely known about. Anyway, so snapdragons, these are the tall rust resistant variety. These are also the ones that you see right here in these bouquets. I have been cutting these since February last year, and I direct sowed them in September in the greenhouse, and greenhouse for me becomes zone 9B because it's frost free, it's covered, and so on and so forth. So it's almost like a year-round crop for me, the snapdragons, and they live for at least 2 to 3 years until they lower down their production, and that's when I yank them out and reseed again. So hardy annual as well as a tender annual, tender perennial and a short-lived perennial, all in the same category. This is another one, Forget Me Not. I made a ton of videos on this. Actually, no, I'm sorry, 2 videos on this. I made one where I was showing you how to grow these from seed and the results, and then another one where I was cutting. I'll go ahead and link both of those here. There's 2 varieties of these. One that is, I believe, that comes back from root in cooler areas, and then this one. This is a Dollar Tree variety. I always purchase this and sow this. My summers are too hot for it to come back for me on its own, and because I harvest all the flowers, there's no seed pods. So unless I leave some of the seed pods on these flowers and collect them, then certainly I would have them for next year. But I sow them in September. This is a shade-loving annual. You can sow it in partial shade or full sun as well. It does very well. I've done it in full sun or partial shade. It grew taller in partial shade, and in full sun it flowered more. So it's kind of like a bit of a toss-up. Great, wonderful plant, direct sown, as all of these are. Right here is Cleome. Something to note on this one is a lot of people complain that it has a little bit of a funky smell. I personally don't notice it. If you don't like the smell of it, don't cut it and just leave it for the pollinators, and you will have a ton of hummingbirds and butterflies all around this plant. They love it. However, if you want to cut it, it is thorny, so be careful. It does grow pretty tall, about 5 foot or so, and makes a great background plant if you only want to grow it for the pollinators and not want to cut it. I personally love the vase life of this guy. A little bit of a sowing trick on this is sow in October before first frost, whenever that is for you. Don't sow when it's still too hot, because they're not going to germinate. They actually enjoy the up and down in the temperatures for them to germinate. A lot of times, some people, what they do is put them in the fridge for 2 weeks, just this whole seed packet, put it in the fridge for 2 weeks, and then come back, get it out, and then direct. So I have never done that. I didn't feel the need to do it. I have pretty good germination rate. I would sow a few of these, and then they produce a ton of seed. So that's another one. Sweet William, this is also one that is kind of a questionable hardy perennial. The reason why I say that is because for me it's been an annual, it's been a perennial ever since it's grown. Some people also say that they're biannual, so they will grow greenery the first year and then grow flowers the following year. For me, they grew flowers the first year when I fall sowed them, and they have been multiplying from root ever since, and they grow to about 1 to 2 foot tall. I made a video on how to ship these. They ship very well and have a phenomenal vase life. So if you want to check that video out, I'll go ahead and leave that link. It does have a very slight fragrance, and I do have all these colors that are listed, or at least shown in the photo here. So sown around September, October time frame. They flower flower, for me, they flower the first year in April, and they flower from April all the way till June when it gets very hot. This one, flowering time, I didn't talk about. The flowering time, it starts from April and goes all the way till July. Right here, this one is not a fan of heat, so it flowers starting March, goes all the way till June. When it gets too hot, it stops flowering. This is almost like a year-round flower for me, at least in the greenhouse. Outdoors, it flowers starting March and goes all the way till frost, which is first week of November. And then the last one is pansy, and we all know this is a wonderful edible flower. And these are the Swiss giant pansies, and they are wonderful edible flowers as well as cut flowers for Christmas time frame. If you sow them around August, September time frame, they flower for you right around Christmas for you to be able to use them in Christmas bouquets along with say sweet peas or whatever else perennials that you have blooming in the garden, so you don't go without flowers around Christmas time frame. And they only grow about 6 to 8 inches tall, so they're very short, and have a vase life of about 5 days specifically, and they bloom starting December all the way till March and April, and then they kind of poop out with the heat. As far as planting them is concerned, all of these can be planted in rows. That's how I plant them. So I would start with the tallest one, which is Cleome, and then go to Snapdragon. So Cleome is 5 foot tall. Snapdragon is about 3.5 foot tall. So it would go like this: Cleome, then it would be Snapdragons, and then it would be Sweet Williams, since they're about 2 foot tall. Sweet Williams and Forget-Me-Nots can be planted side by side as well. They're about the same height, and these ones are the shortest ones, so they can be in front, and you can plant rows like this, and they make beautiful display for your landscape as well as for cut flowers. And that was the video, guys. I hope you found this helpful and added value into your frugal Dollar Tree cut flower gardening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.